Friends and family of peace, happy Thanksgiving. Wherever you're at today, I hope that you are having a great time celebrating with family, eating some good food, and giving thanks for all the blessings that you have in life. Now, I know that many of you already know this, but in case you've forgotten, or in case today isn't what you hoped it would be, you have a lot to be thankful for. You really do. You have so much to be thankful for. You have friends and family. You have a roof over your head and a warm place to be. You have food that you're going to be eating today. And even if Thanksgiving isn't what it used to be for you, you still have so much to give thanks for, even if it's just the memories of Thanksgivings past. There's an old hymn. Maybe you've heard it before, but it goes like this. Now thank we all our God, with hearts and hands and voices, who wondrous things has done, in whom his world rejoices, who from our mother's arms has blessed us on our way with countless gifts of love, and still is ours today. It's an oldie, but a goodie. It's a song that reminds us that we ought to thank our God. We ought to thank him for all the things he blesses us with and gifts us. Even from when we are just babies in our mother's arms, God has given us all the good things that you and I have to celebrate today. Something that we don't often do in this world is live with an attitude of thankfulness. Now, I know that's a strong thing to say when all you're trying to do today is just relax, eat some turkey, avoid the inevitable political conversation with Uncle Jeff, and have a gravy and wine-induced coma on the couch with the TV on and the kids having the run of the house. I know that's all you want out of today. But we also have to realize that we often don't live very thankfully. But it's not all our fault that we aren't always thankful. We live in a world where we all play the comparison game. We wish our family could just get along this year and that we'd get the best family pictures to share on the socials. We want other people to just show up to dinner, follow the plan that you texted out 3 months ago, and make the day as perfect as you hoped it would be. We get frustrated and disappointed when grandma decides to alter the recipe for her famous green bean casserole and she decides to make it dairy-free and gluten-free and take all the good stuff out of it, and it's just not the same this year. Or when everyone asks you what you're doing with your life and if you're finally going to settle down when you're just trying to figure it all out yourself. The society we live in with social media and false expectations and our self-centered, sinful hearts, it all points us to live thanklessly rather than thankfully. Now, even though Thanksgiving isn't really a church holiday, we can learn something from it. Thanksgiving is a day where instead of making comparisons and setting ourselves up for disappointment and allowing your frustration to overshadow the bigger picture of what today is all about, we can choose thankfulness. Now, I know that sounds hard, and at times it is, but we can make a step towards a life of thankfulness today by acknowledging this truth. God has given you yesterday, today, and tomorrow. God has always provided for his people in the past. And we cultivate an attitude of thankfulness by remembering what he's done for us. God's people have always had a strong emphasis on remembering God's deliverance in the past. In fact, the hymn I just read, Now Thank We All Our God, was actually based on a book written between the Old Testament and the New Testament about 200 years before Jesus was born. And that book was called Ecclesiasticus, and it was a book of wisdom, kind of like Proverbs, that a teacher wrote down for his students. And the verses that the author of the hymn focused on were these ones. And now bless the God of all, who in every way does great things, who exalts our days from birth and deals with us according to his mercy. May he give us gladness of heart and grant that peace may be in our days in Israel as in the days of old. May he entrust to us his mercy and let him deliver us in our days. We thank God because of his past deliverance. because he saved his people in the past by delivering them from slavery, from their enemies, and from all kinds of other things. We remember the days of old and how God provided for his people all throughout the scriptures. And we can also remember what he's done in our lives too. You can remember how he got you through your tough times, your difficulties when it seemed like your whole life was falling apart. Remember what God has done for his people and for you in the past. And when you remember those things, it helps you and I become a little more thankful. He's given you yesterday and brought you through your past, and he's also given you today. In a few hours, when you sit down and get ready to eat, as you pray or go around the table and say what you're thankful for, just take a moment to look around the room. Look at who's there. Look at what you have in front of you on your plate. Look down and realize that you are still here today, and that alone is a gift God's given you today. He's given you your family. He's given you friends. You have a roof over your head and dinner on the table. And many people would give anything to have what you have. God's given you yesterday. He's given you today. He's also given you tomorrow. God's given you a promise. He's given you the promise of life with Jesus. In Jesus, through his death on the cross and resurrection from the dead, he's given you the promise of tomorrow. And you know that no matter what happened yesterday, no matter what happens today, or what will happen tomorrow, you have a future with Jesus. You have life with him in a new world which will not end. And that same old hymn says this in the second verse. Oh, may this bounteous God through all our life be near us, with ever joyful hearts and blessed peace to cheer us, and keep us in his grace, and guide us when perplexed, and free us from all ills in this world and the next. You can be thankful today because God has given you tomorrow with Jesus. He's given you life everlasting and the promise of a world made new, which is coming soon, where there are no family arguments and Thanksgiving invitations rejected. No aches, pains, and surgeries that prevent you from being where you want to be today. No tears over hurtful comments made before dinner, and no empty chairs around the table that were once filled with our loved ones who are now with Jesus. What you will have is just the perfect Thanksgiving feast with the perfect family, the church, and the perfect host, your God. What more could you ask for? And so how do we live out this life of thankfulness? Well, we live it out together today when you're okay with the family picture not being quite perfect this year because you're just happy everybody showed up. You make sure everyone is invited, included, and welcomed home today, even Uncle Jeff. You live out thankfulness when you don't worry about having the best dish on the table or the best Thanksgiving party because you're blessed enough to have what's in front of you. And even if grandma makes her dairy-free green bean casserole this year, or you get asked, what are you doing with your life for the 12th time in one day, you can still be thankful. You can be thankful because you know that today is a gift from God, who provided for you in your past, who has given you the gift of life with Jesus tomorrow, and who gives you everything you have today. The song, Now Thank We All Our God, it was actually written 400 years ago by a man named Martin Rinkhart, who was a pastor in Leipzig, Germany. And he lived during a bloody and brutal time in Europe's history, the 30 Years' War, where an estimated 4.5 to 8 million people died. Some parts of Germany, they saw over 50% of the population decimated over 3 decades of war, disease, and famine. It was one of the bloodiest conflicts in human history. And it's estimated that in 1 year, Rinkhart performed over 4,000 funerals. And yet in the midst of this, he wrote this famous hymn, Now thank we all our God, with hearts and hands and voices, who wondrous things has done, in whom his world rejoices. What we learn from the hymn is that even in the worst circumstances, we can trust in our God and give him thanks for what he has given us in Jesus. I pray today you can give thanks to your God and live out a life of thankfulness because of what he has done for you yesterday, today, and tomorrow in Jesus. I hope you have a great day with your family, and I hope you can join us next Sunday as we start our new message series during the season of Advent, where we are going through the book of Isaiah in a message series called Coming Home for Christmas, Advent in Isaiah, as we get ready to celebrate the birth of our Savior, Jesus. Have a great Thanksgiving. Peace.